Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with My Lowe's Rewards. Earn points towards My Lowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
We are back for another episode of Horror Movie Night. Once again, to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, we are talking about only anniversary films this year. So I'm talking about a film from 2005. But in addition to that, it is February, which is our foreign film February. And I had intended to pick The Day of the Beast, but someone beat me to the punch on that.
I did.
We all win, though, literally. Like,
I know.
It's all
we all
fine.
win on that. I looked at this one and I actually, look, full transparency, I did not know if this was going to be a good episode of the show, but I knew that I really, really loved when we did this movie years ago, over a decade ago now, Scott.
Yeah, it's been like 12
Reddit
years,
Horror
right?
Club.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
All of that shit's gone. Like the only episodes that exist of Reddit Horror Club are like the 5 or 6 episodes we dropped as bonus episodes in the first year of this podcast existence.
And, you know, just in case anybody wants to know why we did that, is because back then we weren't all we didn't have as much reliability as we do now, and those were basically just fillers.
They were fillers. They were also I would say at least of like the 8 that we released, I think 3 of them were really early on where we were just like, all right, on the off chance that someone subscribes to this podcast, we want them to at least hear the episode on Alligator, Phantom of the Paradise, and Puppet Master 3, because they were such like a regular reference point in our conversations back then. But you know, we've talked about this, and I don't consider them canon to Horror Movie Night. So I think that any of those first year Reddit Horror Club releases are still on the table.
Oh, for sure.
For anybody to jump
That's
on.
happening. It's absolutely happening. It's just a matter
I know,
of when.
Scott. I'm doing a little bit of kayfabe here because I know that we're talking about one of those in the near future. I'm just setting them up. I'm setting them up for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the thing. This covers 2 things that I'm not a big fan of, right? Like
J-horror and found footage.
I was going to say like found footage for sure, not a big fan of. And like, honestly, I like foreign films, but I don't usually like foreign horror films. Mm-hmm. I always feel like I don't enjoy J-horror. I don't enjoy French extreme. Like a lot of the individual genres, because it's usually It's like the different countries have this very specific style
the
that breaks in the States, and those have never checked the boxes. The way, like, I'll watch some like 3-hour Spanish drama with like no care in the world, but like when it's a horror film, I'm like,
That's so interesting. That's so interesting.
It's like almost 2 hours long. Let's just be real here.
It's
great.
I also think,
true.
well, I think part of it is that horror is like, of all the genres that exist, horror is top of my like background noise genre.
Yeah.
So like this adds this element of, no, I have to give this my undivided attention or I'm going to be completely lost, which just like does not flow with me. But this, I remember actually scaring the shit out of me when I watched it for Reddit Horror Club. Yeah. But Scott, I don't know if you remembered the circumstances of this at all, but I had the flu, and I was like, well, I got to watch this because we're recording tomorrow. So I was in my like apartment by myself, wrapped up in the covers, like drinking soup and watching this on the laptop. And it was
just
like
so scared.
I was so scared, and also,
horrifying.
like I said, I was fucking sick. Like it was like top 5 sickest nights I've ever pushed through.
nights. HMN's sickest nights.
So extreme.
But I get to do the fun part about trying to summarize this movie, and I'm going to do the world and our podcast a favor. And I've made the creative decision to not use any names.
Good
and
call,
just
buddy.
and
It's
just
smart.
descriptors
God
because
bless you.
it's going to be Oh, what was that?
Oh, I because I was worried that you were going to use all of those names, that it would be self-destructive destiny if you were to do so.
Damn.
But that was
And the cover, the art is great on it too.
The art's great. This is from Electric Brewing Company. It is a double dry hopped triple IPA with milk sugar. So I will not be drinking all of this because this is
a stomach ache in a can.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit. This is going to be a little much, but I had to get it because name and art was great, and it matched this perfectly.
And
what about you, Scott? You got something over there?
Yeah, and this one, Megan really came in clutch this week.
Let's go, Meg.
So she suggested grafts. So graft, like on a tree, ceremony, yuzu champagne cider. And I thought that it's a sour cider, but it's got yuzu in it. And I was like, there's a ceremony, and yuzu is like, I mean, when I think of yuzu,
nice.
I think of Japan, but I mean, I could be a complete idiot white person. But let's see. It smells really funky. I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
Graft? Well, you've had some graft ciders on before.
Oh, fuck! That's awful. That's a one. Whoa!
That's a one sip.
That is the. Oh, that is the weirdest tasting beer, weirdest tasting alcohol. I mean, it's not Malort, right? Like, it's not like notoriously shit, but that is weird. Oh my God, it's like really sour, but it's got like a funk to it, like a legitimate funk. I think that's probably the champagne yeast. Wow, that is it tastes like grass. But it's not, like take out the like the spinachy kind of scent of grass, the green, the chlorophyll.
Yeah.
That's
more like borophyll.
That's
exactly.
crazy. That's
anyway,
crazy. That's how that would taste that way. So you said Malort. Somebody was supposed to bring us Malort last Creature Feature. I don't know who you were.
Should have been Eli, right?
I know it was not.
Oh, it was someone who's not in our inner circle.
Yeah, so if somebody's coming to I don't know. I shouldn't beg for Malort, but I want to try it.
I want to try it too, and I'm not going to Chicago just to try it.
Yeah.
So
no. So if somebody is coming to Creature Feature Weekend this year and said that last year and did not come through. Just come through. Anyway, speaking of cursed things,
that was a cursed drink. Man, hit us up with the summary, baby.
So this film, Noroi The Curse, it doubles as a found footage film and a documentary film. I'm not going to say a few titles here because I think that they're all double features, but I am going to compare it to a film that I feel pretty confident none of us are putting on our double feature list. And it falls into that similar vein as like kind of what Cannibal Holocaust was, where it's not the like we found this random handheld camera footage, but it was like, no, this was shot with the intention of being a documentary, and we've just completed assembling it after something bad happened during the making of it type thing. So this particular film, it follows a paranormal researcher who has produced multiple books and documentaries on the supernatural activities around Japan. However, when he's working on his documentary, The Curse, he disappears after his house is burnt down, which leaves his wife dead. This film has some pretty amazing moments where you can just see like faces staring at you in the distance, lots of strange sounds. The pacing of these scenes is like absolute perfection, and it constantly leaves you waiting for a jump scare that maybe doesn't happen or that just looks at spooky moments in a super matter-of-the-fact way. An early example of this is there's a scene where they're analyzing some strange cat meows and baby cries that they picked up.
That scene's so good. That's a genius scene.
So I'm going to leave it here for a split second and say, if you haven't seen this movie, absolutely do yourself a favor, go on Shudder, watch it. It is worth the hour and 55 minutes experience.
This was my first watch, by the way. I had not seen this, and I was I was but the faces and the moments felt familiar to me. So I don't know if it's just been one of those things that's been like talked about enough or we've seen images enough, but the rest of it I had not known. So I was really, really pleasantly surprised. I was spooked. Like I really enjoyed my watch of it. So I second that recommendation because man, this ruled.
There's a highlight in this movie. It's probably my favorite scene in this movie where we're following an actress. She shows up in the movie who's playing herself. I don't think I realized that the first time I watched it.
I watched this movie like 3 times and I never realized that.
Yeah,
so
it's an actual famous Japanese actress playing herself in this particular film. But while filming a different movie, she becomes possessed by something and she wants to get that demon removed from her, hence how she comes into the picture. But they're like rewatching the footage of when she first panicked, and it's so good because they show you the scene matter-of-factly, and then they're like, hey, wait, go backwards slower. And it's not like there's like an overlay of creepy music, but it's not that like American way where they're just like hitting you with loud noises to jump. And you just slowly watch them go scene by scene through the shot until you just see that there is a like shadowy figure just standing in the woods staring at her. And
I think they do that like 3 times.
Effective.
It's in this movie.
And
total.
then they just move on. They just move on. So like there is this sort of sense of like, oh, this stuff happens and we catch this sometimes, like because he is a paranormal investigator or like a cultist or whatever. So it's like it's not necessarily unheard of that he'd come across some of these things, but the way that they like amp up is crazy. But yeah, they just leave you. They just left you with it and like moved on to the next day or segment or whatever like was compiled of the footage. Man, they dropped those bombs a few times and they're really great.
It works every time. The big focus, I would say, of this particular film, though, there's a lot of like these little vignettes that they show us of like things that he's researching, and every time he's researching it, the people die. But we go on to this like side quest about this TV psychic who, when doing a demonstration in a classroom, finds a girl who shows psychic abilities, and then she disappears. And there's a big focus on finding her as well as, you know, getting this demon out of the actress. Right.
Crazy connection to Day of the Beast from last week, which is so strange.
Listen, every one of these movies feels like this just leads into the next one because we're doing another similar found footage movie next week.
Yeah, it's so weird. I actually made a note for next week, but I'll say it this week that it's so crazy for the lack of found footage in our catalog, and doing 2 back-to-back is just it's so funny.
It's so weird.
It's very strange. They also cover a bunch of events where there were these massive suicides by hanging, and how they're all connected to this demon that accidentally was summoned by a village decades earlier. They would perform yearly rituals in order to appease it until the village was eventually destroyed to make space for a dam. But in their last attempt at the ritual, the priest's daughter appears to have become possessed and disappeared. And it's only later that we find out that she was working at a nursing school where she helped perform illegal abortions, and she would steal the fetuses. And we find out that we met her way earlier in the beginning of this movie when he's investigating a different paranormal circumstance.
I really love how it like goes. It kind of leapfrogs from one like investigation, and he's like, oh, and he follows that red thread, you know, that line of yarn somewhere else, and then like it's really masterful how
it's
all comes
incredibly
together
tight.
At the end. It's so
it
good.
is a very tight magic trick that they
it's
basically
okay to
pull
be
off
an hour
here.
and 48 minutes when you're this good. You know,
like
this is the best
all
and
of the
longest
time.
found footage movie. You know,
yes. 100. I agree with both accounts.
And I have to say, Matt, like to just slightly to your point that you made earlier, like it's not that I was not paying attention, but I sort of got sucked in and surrendered to it. Like nothing felt like I really needed to like focus or like really like tune in, even like subtitled or anything like that. It was like enough for me to follow along with a complicated story and with a meandering narrative, and then also being in another language that's not my own. Like, but I wasn't struggling with this either. So if anybody, that's just another testament to like, if anybody's sort of on the fence about exploring a found footage foreign film, well, we could have done found footage February. Nah, I like this.
Found footage foreign found footage February. That would have been amazing.
Foreign found footage February.
But they,
halfway.
No, I'm gonna say that they actually do a good job. I would say of visually, even if you ignored the subtitles, I think you'd be able to follow like 75% of it just based on how visual the reveals are.
And also the way that people speak, like it, I don't know. Like
you can tell when
right.
they're nervous or when they're like you can gauge a lot from just how things are presented. So it's at this point that we get our team of a researcher, the actress, and the TV psychic. They're all going to go to this dam where the village once was and perform the ritual, hoping to free her from her possession. And in that area, they actually discover the ghost of the missing girl in the classroom. And this is a crazy scene. She is surrounded by moving fetuses that are just like crawling up her body.
It is so good.
It's so gnarly. Crazy. After they deal with all of that, they then find the priest's daughter, and she's with a young boy that the researcher adopts when they find out that he's not the actual son of this woman. Meanwhile, the psychic is put into a mental institution.
Well, he also, like, I love that guy. I've always loved that guy because his teeth are so fucked. And I'm like, are those really fucked teeth, or are they? But like he really plays like an insane person, a completely psychotic person having a mental break so well that you're like, because he's smacking his head and he looks really unwell, and it's an incredible performance, especially because I keep really low expectations for the actors in found footage because they are the worst. That's why we usually don't discuss them. Well, but these ones are awesome.
But I think that's what. Well, I'll keep going for a second. But so we get to the finale of the movie, and this is where we see the last footage ever taken by this researcher, in which the psychic has now arrived at his home, escaping from the institute, and tries to reveal that the young boy is actually the demon in human form. He starts to bludgeon him with a rock, which proves the true identity of the boy for a couple seconds before he takes the kid.
That little sign is like super creepy too.
Yeah,
I really love the way that they utilize their small budget, because so much of this is just people talking, so that when supernatural things happen, you can this movie looks all of 2010. Like, it's 2010, right?
It's 2005.
Oh, 2005. So it looks every bit of 2005 then. Like, the CGI is not great. But the thing is that I can totally forgive that, because it's like, I don't know.
A good story and good pacing goes a long way. Right?
Yeah, agreed.
So the psychic grabs this young boy and he runs off. The researcher's wife now is suddenly possessed, and this is when it's like this consistent uncut shot of her like pouring gasoline on herself, lighting herself on fire, and basically burning the house down, as it tells us that the main character has yet to be found. Right? It's dark, it's uncomfortable, it's weird. But again, I've said this 1,000 different ways. Like, I am way more into the rediscovered documentary than I am the actual authentic found footage. And I'm like trying to walk gently, because obviously
I know
it's a minefield of double
with you.
Features.
Really good
there's
job,
like a
Matt.
minefield of double features that we're talking about. But
I mean, you already said mine of Cannibal Holocaust.
I knew it. I know.
Okay.
But no,
Kyle.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in what we think of found footage to be, Blair Witch is like the best example of that. But then you've got this whole other subgenre that I almost feel bad gets put into the found footage category, because it's truly more of a mockumentary than a found footage. It's like a mockumentary with an open-ended conclusion. And the pacing of those is a lot better, because Blair Witch set this concept of get actors and let them improvise with the cameras, and I think so many other films followed that concept. But like, if you look at the origins of like mockumentaries, which I'm sure that there's a mockumentary before this, but I think the most famous one is This Is Spinal Tap. Like, that sets a very different standard, where maybe you don't have a script per se, but you have like a 30-page outline and very detailed character write-ups, and you have actors specifically chosen to embody those characters. I'm under the impression that this was an extremely tight script. You know what I mean? This was not. It's kind of what I liked about. I know it's a controversial movie, and it's another one I feel comfortable mentioning that won't be anyone's double feature. But like Poughkeepsie Tapes. Poughkeepsie Tapes is a documentary about found footage, not a found footage. Truly. And it's like that delicate line, but that delicate line allows you to actually cast people to be actors playing characters, whereas I think found footage is more what people can think on their feet as we kind of just keep throwing shit at them to scare them.
Always so bad.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. It is one of those things where it's like what sounds to be the easier or cheaper or whatever route is actually more complicated and difficult to successfully do, because in actuality, any of this medium needs is something set in stone, or some sort of like pre-production or script or anything. Any of that still needs to happen in order to make a movie work. You know what I mean? Like that's
especially
like,
with this one,
this
because like we said,
needs...
this is an hour and 45, 50 minute long film that introduces all these little vignettes that all tie to the finale of the movie eventually. And like, you can't do that just riffing. You know what I mean? Like that is like a tight script. That's why I would love to know, like, I'm sure that there are improvised elements, right? Like when they're filming in the classroom, when they're doing those bits, but like, there's no way that this was done without a very worked out blueprint of like, these are the beats, these are the things, make sure that they say this line of dialogue, make sure this happens. I remember hearing a story about like the writing of Lost. Like the J.J. Abrams knew how it was going to end, but he didn't want to spoil it by like telling the writers too much. So he would often just be like, hey, write whatever you want, but in this episode you need to establish these like 2 major plot points. And it was like a way to like let people roam free while still like keeping the paces that he needed. Now that's up for debate if that worked or not. Some people think it ended brilliantly. Some people think it's the worst ending of all time, because they felt like there was unanswered things that writers had thrown in there for the sake of weirdness. So take that for what you will.
Here it is, guys. Welcome to my hometown's video store.
Sweet, I didn't even know these still existed.
Well, they haven't had a new release since like 2004, but it's still standing. Why don't you guys look around and rent something? It's on me.
Okay, I'm done.
What?
I got the best of 1987, RoboCop, Lethal Weapon, and Predator.
Predator's good, but Predator 2 is better.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, all those old action films, the sequels are better. RoboCop 2, Predator 2, Highlander 2.
Can't argue with Highlander 2.
Do they have any anime?
Yep, if you look, it's right over there.
That's like 5 tapes.
Yeah, welcome to the Midwest.
Steve, what are you renting?
I'll probably rent some bad sci-fi. Maybe something with Will Smith.
Nice. Get some Tim Burton Planet of the Apes while you're at it.
Isn't that the one where you wanted to bang the girl monkey?
Welcome to Analog Jones in the Temple of Film. I'm Steve.
I'm Chris.
I'm Brad.
We are a VHS podcast that breaks down the box art, trailers, and behind the scenes. Do you miss the old days before the internet when you only talked about the films you watched with your friends? We watch these old tapes and look for cool trailers, bizarre promos, and break them down for your entertainment.
If you like sweaty action movies, crappy sci-fi, or schlocky horror films and hate reading, listen to Analog Jones.
Sometimes we even do research and get our facts right on these old movies.
Even if we don't, it's on the internet. It's facts now.
So search for Analog Jones and find us at Anything That Plays podcast.
Unless we have other things that we want to talk about, I feel like our double feature conversation is going to kind of just be an extension of this discussion.
Yeah.
All right,
what are you thinking?
This was
Matt,
my pick.
it's your pick, so you go first.
I mean, I know we just did it fairly recently, but I had to go with Ghostwatch, especially with the element of bringing in like the actual, like an actress to play herself as opposed to hiring someone to just play what you are depicting as a famous actress. Like, it's those little elements that add that bit of realism to it. And it's kind of the same vein as like, we are watching a thing that went off the rails while they were making it. And this is just like, this is the footage that they had from the thing that they were working on. Which again just puts it in kind of a higher tier than like just your regular like Blair Witch.
Scott, you want to go? Because that Ghostwatch was my first
Oh shit!
choice.
Sorry, buddy. So
right.
I'm gonna go with this director's. I don't know if it was a follow up, but he also did Sadako versus Kayako, which is The Ring versus The Grudge girls. I mean, I'm no fan of either of those franchises. Like, they're fine. Right, or it's not The Ring. It's Ringu versus The Grudge, which whatever the Grudge's original name was. But it is surprisingly fun from what I remember. I would go with that. But I mean, I have something that I want to talk to you guys about when we get through the rest of this portion of the conversation.
Okay.
All right, so Kyle, I'm sorry I stole yours from your
hands.
No,
it's fine. Ghostwatch is such a good double feature with this. I'm gonna go Last Broadcast.
Okay.
Which again is sort of this American pre-Blair Witch, but maybe not pre-Blair Witch, depending on whose side you're on. Found footage that I've definitely suggested before, but I do want to just say one quick thing about double features, which will also lead into a little bit of a plug, if that's all right.
Oh,
and
no,
Scott,
wait.
actually, Scott, you had another one.
Oh, well, okay, so I had been considering how it. I was like, I don't know if I want to say this out loud or if I want to just like let it sit, but I don't know if we're gonna get to it this year, because like, as everybody knows, we're trying to do the whole year. Like, I know I'll be able to do the whole year with no problem, all anniversaries, because it's easy for me. I know exactly what I want. But I have actually become I have too many things that I want to discuss. And one of them is, I believe, 2010's The Shrine, which is white people. It's kind of like a white people version of this one. And I remember really liking it for it being low budget and kind of a fun surprise when I saw it, probably in 2010, maybe 2011. It felt like the vibe would be right. I don't know if I'm going to go with it when we actually get later on into the year. We'll see what the second half of 2025 shakes out like as far as my picks go. But have you guys ever watched that movie or even heard of it?
I haven't, but Scott, I mean, the other great fun thing is that I don't think we're going to keep rolling into only anniversaries for year 11. Anything we don't cover is up for grabs for the next year.
I don't know if it's good enough to do without it being the additional anniversary. That's really what I'm trying to say here.
You know what? I'm okay. You know that I've fought against this many times, but I'm okay if once a year we pick a like themed month. I don't want to do 12 themed months, but I'm fine if we decide like, hey, we're going to do a musical March next year. Or we're going to do like, all right, fine. Because I think I was just scarred from when we were like, hey, for October, let's do only anthology films.
Yeah.
And by like the fourth anthology film, I'm like, that's just too many goddamn anthology films. Like, it was like, it felt like we had recorded 20 episodes because we had to talk about each segment, and it was just like, this is brutal.
Can you imagine what it would have been like if we would have done anthology month and have to actually explain the the plot synopses.
Absolute nightmare. If we were to do if we were ever to do an anthology film again, ever, the only way that I would allow us to do it was that we would have to break up doing the description, each one of us covering a different part of the anthology.
And the run and the length would still be insane.
Yeah.
The episode length would still be insane. I was surprised because I've been going back through the archives of Horror Movie Night for Letterboxd.
Ooh, this sounds like it's promo time. Kyle, tell us about our Letterboxd.
Just a little bit, because I was sick this weekend, so I spent a lot of time trying not to do a ton of overexertion, but I did sit and I finished up loading up everything onto Letterboxd, but not only just our diary, which I think I reported last week, but I also I included on the descriptions of the movies every suggested double feature that us and our guests had given from the time that we started double features. And I'm interested. One, because I was under the impression of the rule that we don't do anthologies. I did not realize it came from what we're talking about here, from a month in which it had happened. But I'm just wondering if you all know what our most suggested double feature is. Now, there's a few that have been suggested 7 times.
What? I'm guessing Behind the Mask is a big one.
It is not.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Behind the Mask has only been suggested 3 times.
I feel like Tammy the T-Rex came up a lot for like a year.
Mm-hmm. So Tammy and the T-Rex. Oh my God, I just closed out of Letterboxd. Tammy and the T-Rex has been suggested 7 times. Yeah.
Yes.
So there was one, but here's the thing with Tammy and the T-Rex. There was 1 week, and it was Carnosaur, where we all suggested Tammy and the T-Rex. So I do feel like, and that's the only time we've ever done that. So my other question, okay, the one, so I'll just give you the 7.
Okay.
And then I want you to pick which ones you think you suggested the most.
Okay.
I want you to do that first before I give you the 7. Which ones do you think that you've suggested the most?
Oh, man.
And also think of Brian. What has Brian suggested the most?
Oh, fuck. Brian.
I feel like you need to give us the numbers. I think if you give us the titles, it'll be, because there's so many movies.
It's impossible for me to know. Yeah.
Okay.
So what were our 7?
Here's what I'll do. So I'll give you all of the 7, and I'll tell you if there's one in here that one of you suggested the most.
Okay.
Phantom of the Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
The Blob.
That's Matt.
Waxwork. Tourist Trap. The Kindred, Tammy and the T-Rex.
Okay. Well, Scott's definitely Kindred
and Blob. Matt is definitely Phantom of the Paradise and
no, Scott, I don't know if you're Blob. I think you're Waxwork.
Oh yeah, maybe.
So Scott, you have suggested Waxwork and the Kindred both 6 times. The only other person who's ever
suggested... watch this week is? No joke.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. That's crazy. Matt has only suggested Waxwork 1 time, and then Brian has only suggested the Kindred the other 1 time. Now you said the Blob, 88.
Yeah.
That is Matt 5 times. That is Scott twice.
Wow.
Yeah. For Phantom of the Paradise, which I kind of have deemed the first one that has been suggested the most, Matt 3, Scott 2, Kyle 1, guest host 1, which I don't remember. I didn't write down the guest host name, so apologies. What do you think? So Matt, your most picked is...
It's not Phantom with... So
that's shocking.
Yeah.
No, but now I have to go down a second tier. To this is what's been picked 6 times. Okay. The Frighteners, Popcorn.
Oh, that's Matt.
Texas Chainsaw 2, 6, Serial Insane Clown Killer.
Those are me.
Humanoids from the Deep.
That's me.
Okay. Those are all 6.
So Matt, the first 2 were Matt. The second 3 were me. So
no,
TCM 2.
I think Kyle might be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Not 2. No way.
Never. That's right.
Yeah. Matt. So Matt is the only person who has picked something in here the most.
Was it Frightener 6 times?
And it was Frightener. It was Frighteners. No, it wasn't Frighteners. It was Frighteners 4, and Brian picked them 2 of the times. Your most picked is Popcorn and Cereal and Insane Clown Killer, both with 5 times. Scott following up with 1 suggestion each on those.
This is insane.
So I will just, because then obviously picked 4 times gets expanded, and I've only done anything that's been picked more than 4
Kyle,
times.
was your most Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation?
I've only suggested that 1 time.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That blows my fucking mind right there.
The movie that I suggested most was also Matt, you picked Alligator 5 times and you're the only one who's ever picked Alligator.
That makes sense.
Brian picked Ed Wood 4 times, and you've only picked it once, Matt.
Yeah.
I picked Brain Scan 4 times. I'm the only person who's ever suggested Brain Scan as a double feature.
Quite obviously, yes.
So those are the stats for the moment, and that's, I think. So I've created 2 lists on Letterboxd. One is our most suggested double features, and the other one is anything that we've picked for listener submitted month. I don't know what else I'm going to do for lists in the meantime, but Letterboxd is a really fun place to also put what we've watched. So if you're not on Letterboxd, check us out. We're just HMN Podcast, or you can just search Horror Movie Night Podcast, Letterboxd. I'm having a lot of fun with it over there. I don't know what's to come, but I've sort of completed my initial task plus some. So yeah.
Well, Kyle, I want to jump off of that real quick and say HMN Podcast is basically the only thing you ever need to know. Find us on social media with that. You can find our website to buy shirts. You can search that on TeePublic and find even more specific rarity shirts. It's also where you can find our Patreon. And if you throw an @gmail.com at the end of that, you can ask to be added to our newsletter. But Kyle, you're not done talking just yet, because I believe that there's a special screening of your short film Ouchie that you need to talk about as well.
I have more to say. Dead of Winter Horror Festival put on by Dead of Winter Entertainment is up in Worcester, Massachusetts on February 22nd and 23rd. They are having 2 days. I think one day is only the film festival, and the second one is like workshops / like convention type thing. I think some members of the Toxic Avenger film are going to be there. Not the new one, which just got announced that it did find a home.
Yay!
Yeah. Ouchie will have its final festival screening.
It's Cineverse. We literally got an email from John London, the Podfather, about this while we're discusing this.
Yeah,
perfect.
This is live. This is breaking news.
Yeah, John is like he's smelling something, and he's like, I gotta tell the guys.
Yeah, very important. Very, very important, because we all were upset. But, we can thank Donald Trump for this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please cut that out.
He saved TikTok. He saved the Toxic Avenger.
He saved the Toxic Avenger. God bless Donald Trump. Actually, we'll have its final festival screening, Dead of Winter Horror Fest in Worcester, Massachusetts, February 23rd. And then we are looking to release it online probably like immediately after that. Like, I'm hoping for the day after that. That is unofficial, but I'm working to make sure that is kind of the case. Thanks for everybody for supporting and listening to me babble about this for over a year now. And I'm so glad for y'all to finally check it out. And if you're in or near Worcester, Massachusetts, come out. There's a bunch of horror shorts. Some that are going to be really bad, some that are going to be really fun. But I'm going to be there, so at least we can have fun together.
And Kyle, I just want to let you know you can ignore the text messages that I just sent you that were supposed to go to Brian to see if Brian knows what his double feature is.
Oh, yeah, no problem. No problem. I ignored.
So, last part of the show is talking about things that we may have watched, listened to, read, etc. that we are really into, or maybe didn't like and want to warn you about. It's my pick, so I still get to go first. I watched, and I was very charmed by the Netflix show Man on the Inside. So I love a good dramedy sitcom. And this was the newest one from who I think is one of the best dramedy sitcom writers, Michael Schur, who gave us Parks and Recreation as well as The Good Place. This is his follow-up to The Good Place, starring Ted Danson, and it's based on a documentary that he had seen that I believe took place in Korea. But it was that this retirement home in the documentary, it was a retirement home that was being accused of abusing the residents.
Oh yes, this
so
show.
she
Megan was
hires,
watching that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So the private investigator hires an elderly man to move into the retirement home to be her man on the inside. And he just thought, man, this could be a really charming sitcom concept with Ted Danson. So in this one, it's just he's trying to solve a robbery that one of the residents' necklaces had been stolen. And he's sent in there. And what it does a great job of is, like, Ted Danson is very funny. He's very charming. It's got that wholesome, sugary, sweet tone that I love in a sitcom. But it also has these extremely heavy, dramatic moments where Ted Danson's wife a year earlier died from dementia.
Yeah.
And he constantly, in doing this man on the inside stuff, has to come face to face with other dementia patients and kind of reliving the pain of what he had just gone through for years. And the way that Ted Danson just can beautifully walk those sad moments and then get you crying and then say, like, just the absolute right thing to make you smile and laugh again, definitely falls into a similar vein. I would say it's a little bit heavier than an Only Murders in the Building, but it's like that same comedic, like, murder mystery style charm. I believe it's been renewed for another season, so I'm excited to see where they go next with it. But I had an absolute blast. Knocked it out over a weekend. Highly recommend. So, Scott, Kyle, you guys fight over who goes next.
I mean, I already said what I was gonna say about it. I rewatched The Kindred on Shudder. I was so excited. I still love that movie. I just really hate the fact that the dog dies so early on because it's a cute dog. Yeah. And also, I was just laying in bed watching it, and I was just mad because I'm like, you know, it's not just my love of dogs that pisses me off. It's not even just dogs. It's like, why kill a defenseless pet who is supposedly part of your family? And I understand it's because they're supposed to be ratcheting up the stakes before they start killing people. But it always feels so cheap. So even beyond me not wanting to watch a dog get eaten by a genetically modified thing, I really think that it does no service to the story, you know, when you do that. It just feels cheap. But it makes up for it when that third act, when they're so gooey and gross, and I love it so much, and you won't look at watermelons the same way again. So if you have been waiting, like we did for quite some time, to finally watch The Kindred, it's on Shudder. You can watch it. That's was that Synapse that did it?
Synapse.
I think Synapse is the one who actually did the blue of that, which I still own. It's just easier to watch it on Shudder because I don't have to connect a Blu-ray player. So such a good movie. It's so nice to go back to kind of like a kind of crummy B movie, or not crummy, like really crummy, but, you know, like a forgotten B movie that me talk about loving on this show so much and still enjoying it for what it is. You know, like sometimes the enjoyment wears off and you're like, well,
right.
Got some egg on my face for suggesting it as a double feature 7 times on this show.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I haven't watched the 6-time suggested double feature.
You've never seen
winner.
The Kindred?
The Kindred.
Oh, Kyle, you'll love
you
shit
told me
out
it
of
was.
The Kindred.
It's so gooey.
I know.
Love it.
I was waiting for it to appear on a thing, so I didn't have to. I really do like Synapse a lot, and I mean they're pretty formative for me. But I think some of the other things that had come out that we had been waiting for, that, you know. Yeah, I'm sure the Synapse release is great. I just did not want to drop the dough on The Kindred.
Dude, it was ridiculous. The Steelbook was like $50, $60. I spent so much money on it. I mean, I love it, but
yeah,
I don't.
Well,
I didn't
that's
need
the
to
thing.
spend
I think
that fucking money on it.
On the reverse of that, it's like, you know, Charlie Band put out the Tourist Trap Blu-ray back. You know, this was probably almost a decade ago now, right? Like, and I was so excited, so excited. The only like tourist trap I had ever owned was like it wasn't a rip. It was like a rip of the Blu-ray, but it was a bootleg of, a rip of the DVD, but it was a bootleg DVD of that transfer, right?
Yeah.
And then like there's no features. There's nothing. Like there's zilch on that tourist trap Blu-ray, and I still dropped whatever the $25 pre-order directly to Charlie's pockets. Who I'm excited to meet at Creature Feature Weekend.
Hell yeah, Creature Feature Weekend. March
so like I can appreciate
through 30th, right?
Whatever that last weekend in March is, which is kind of crazy.
It's gonna be sick.
But I would if Tourist Trap came out with something like that, I would drop the money 100%. So I understand why you did it on the Kindred, but I'm gonna watch it on Shudder eventually. What I watched was David Lynch had passed away, and I'm still kind of reeling from that. And Carly and I are going through a lot of films and things that not necessarily are blind spot. Some are blind spots for sure, and some are things that we've not visited. So in between that stuff, I'm just finding I'm depleting that must-watch shelf of DVDs and Blu-rays that I have that has filled up. And I watched Autofocus by Paul Schrader, which is a biographical drama of Bob Crane, who was the actor in Hogan's Heroes, who has an unsolved murder, who was murdered and that remains unsolved. And it's a really great flick. It's Paul Schrader's an interesting filmmaker. I think that like sometimes he's really, really plain, but he's not. It's not for lack of attention to detail or attention to the story, but sometimes a story is just facts and moments, and like sometimes a story doesn't have a ton of stuff. Like the Bob Crane is an interesting character. For those who don't know, Bob Crane played Hogan on Hogan's Heroes, but he also lived. It's not a double life per se, because the way that they portray it in the film and the way that it's talked about now, he loved photographing and videotaping as technology evolved his sexual escapades throughout his career, throughout the beyond Hogan, right? Like he was, and he had a sort of a confidant. He swung a lot. Like he loved videotaping his sexcapades, and they think that is what got him killed. But Greg Kinnear plays Bob Crane, and Bob Crane also was like, just this good old boy Christian, like presenting guy from the 60s that like, if you think about that era of actor and entertainer, like they are so white bread and wholesome, but he has this. So it's a really nice dichotomy. Willem Dafoe is in it, he's certainly a creep, but he is far less creepy than a lot of Dafoe characters. Like, talk about David Lynch. Like, he ain't no wild at heart Dafoe. Like this is, this is 2002 or whatever Dafoe, and he's doing just fine. But it was really nice. It was just like one of those. I snagged it on a DVD sale. I looked at it. I didn't know what it was about. I saw the names like Schrader and Kinnear and Dafoe, and I knew vaguely of the story of Bob Crane, and it's certainly worth watching. It's like a really cool. It's 2002, so it's like before like the real big true crime boom or renaissance that we've had. It's not, there was a boom, but more of a renaissance, but it has this Hollywood edge to it, this 1960s edge to it. Like it's a really fun flick. It's a little long, but it's good nonetheless. So Autofocus, Paul Schrader.
All right. And we're going to autofocus on talking about a few more foreign films this month.
We're going to this is definitely going to be autofocus. The autofocus plays a huge part in the next movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So stay tuned for more Horror Movie Night.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.